So omni-channel is just, if you don't think that you have to do things in different ways, then that means you are going to give up a stream of potential pipeline that you could be taking advantage of. So why would you not do it? Like, what's the harm in doing it?
I want to welcome you to my sales podcast, where we have one focus and one focus only. That is helping you, the sales community, and sales leaders create more conversations with more qualified buyers, ultimately leading to improving your sales productivity and closing more deals. Each show, you will hear from sales leaders, practitioners, and influencers to help you find, engage, and connect with more buyers. I'm Mario Martinez Jr., and you're now listening to the Selling with Social Sales Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I am pumped. You have no idea how pumped I am, because with me I've got my friend, Mr. Mark Kosoglow, who is the Vice President of Sales of Outreach. And for those of you that know Outreach, man, they've been making some headlines in the news lately, especially with their Series E funding. Congratulations on that, guys. But I actually was super surprised. One day I walked into the mailroom and I had an actual package waiting for me. And it was a UPS notification. I got a package waiting for me. And inside of that package was an actual book. And that first opened up the card, and it was from Manny, Max, and from Mark. And they wanted me to be one of the first people to receive the new book, Sales Engagement, published by Wiley. And I couldn't be more excited about taking this book and actually reading this one. And I've started already, got into the book, got super excited about it. And then I reached out and said, Manny, Max, Mark, one of you have got to join Selling with Social. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Kosoglow, Vice President of Sales from Outreach. Mark, welcome to Selling with Social, my friend.
What up?
Excited to have you here with me. And the official thank you for the card, and for those of you that are watching the video right now, the Sales Engagement book published by the three of y'all. So congratulations on publishing this. This must have been a great accomplishment. And now you're officially a book author. So that's fantastic. Everybody knows who you are because I introduced you, but do me a favor, bro. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, but personal, business, all that good stuff.
My name is Mark Kosoglow, obviously, as Mario said. I'm the VP of Sales at Outreach. Been here since the very beginning. I was the first employee, if you will, of Outreach. Started the job on 100% commission because I believed in what we do, and I believed in the people doing it, and built out the sales team from there. But mostly, you know what I am, Mario? Dude, I'm just a sales guy. Like, I'm just a sales dude, man. Like, I like slinging my bag and doing my thing and, like, getting people to buy stuff and helping people out, finding pain, helping them solve it, even if they don't buy it. What I'm selling, I'm happy to help people and point them in the right direction. Like, that's kind of my thing is, and I think I got that. This is my little known fact you asked me about, is I was actually a pastor for 15 years at a church. And I think what that created for me was an empathy and a heart to people and to help people and to help serve people. And that's what I view sales as. Is it's not really me executing in a like some kind of transaction. And what it is can I connect with the person to get them to tell me their real troubles, and then can I solve them? So I don't share that much. That biases a lot of people towards me, because then when I cuss, they think I'm a hypocrite.
So people know that one of the things I always talk about, and one of my own personal sayings, is sales is the art of helping. Right? That's what sales is. Sales is the art of helping. And I appreciate what you said. And so interestingly enough, I did not know that about you, because it's not on your LinkedIn profile that you were a pastor, man. You got to put that on your LinkedIn profile.
Dude, I'm telling you. So I'm a real guy. Like, I'm not like somebody playing at stuff. And so, like, I'm going to sling out some cuss words, and I'm probably going to watch some movies that most people wouldn't deem I should be watching. And so I don't put that stuff up there because I don't want to get judged. But I'm me, and I do things that I'm cool with. You know what I'm saying?
I gotcha.
Because you're not cool with it doesn't mean I can't be.
I gotcha. Okay, cool, man. Well, that's good. So there you are, everybody. You're one thing that nobody would know about you, about Mark, by looking at his social profile. Well, he was a 15 years, you said?
Yeah, like 15 years.
Okay. All right. 15 years you were a pastor. So I love it, man. Well, congratulations on the book, Sales Engagement. I'd love to just first start out talking a little bit about you and how you started out with outreach. You kind of slipped inside there, which I didn't know until we started rapping about it, was you were the first employee and you came on in a 100% commission environment to outreach. And that's pretty unique. Like, what was it about the opportunity that you saw and you're like, man, I have got to be part of this? Like, what made you say, like, this is something I want to be part of? Because most people, by the way, I don't know if you had kids then, but most people wouldn't jump on board for a 100% commission sales role.
Dude, I have 4 kids and a hot wife, so I got to make money. You know what I'm saying? I got no choice. But it's funny. It's a really specific story, actually. I was helping out a guy in New York City that had read a sales blog that I was doing at the time. And I helped him go from 1 sale a week to 1 sale a day. And so he was really happy, and he connected me with this guy named Manny Medina, who is the CEO of Outreach. And I was going to buy Outreach for my sales team that was leading along like the mid-Atlantic area for a big billion-dollar company, publicly traded company. And so I was leading that sales team. I was about to buy Outreach, and I didn't realize Outreach was just 4 dudes in a closet, like making it happen, right? But I'd met with one of my reps a couple weeks before I met Manny, and I drew on a whiteboard a series of steps, a sequence, if you will, like a certain sales activities in a pattern, followed by an interval of time between them with like what we would do in each one. And that was essentially like a process that I wanted my reps to follow when they were prospecting. And I had a rep try it, and he just had unbelievable results. And we built like a little spreadsheet to kind of manage it and figure it out. And everybody that did it blew up. The problem is it became so unmanageable, and you spent so much time managing the process that you weren't actually making the calls and the emails and getting yourself organized instead of just calling and emailing. Well, Outreach took that process and what I was trying to do with my sales team, and it brought it into a technology that automated it and made it better and took all of the need for discipline out of it and all the need for organization out of it. And it just showed the rep what to do, when, with whom, and how. And when I saw it, I literally called my wife up to the office afterwards. I was working out of the house for that job. And I was like, babe, I got to do this. Like, this is like unbelievable. This will change the world of sales forever. And that was kind of it.
What did she say when you said that?
Well, funny you ask. I'm a risk taker. My wife is very risk averse.
Yeah.
And I don't know, something clicked, or she must have heard something. And she's like, babe, if you think that's what you need to do, go do it. It was really kind of miraculous, to be honest with you. And, when your man and your woman supports you and is behind you, like, you feel like you can take over the world. So, man, I just hit the ground running 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. I feel you on that one. I have a very similar circumstance. My wife, who, by the way, is also hot as well, but she's very risk averse, and so I'm a kind of that middle of the road type of guy, right? I'm calculated risk is where I put myself at, very calculated risk. But I totally get that concept, and especially when you've got someone that's behind you. But now, most people, though, when they go after an opportunity, they don't think 100% commission. And I just have a special place in my heart for people that are 100% commission, because as you know, whenever you join a startup, you're looking for the big pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? And you're looking at the vision, and you're going after the vision to help support the vision. And of course, when I went on my own after being a VP of sales for a software collaboration company, starting up, previously it was M3 Junior, which was later merged under Vingresso, that was 100% commission. And I think there's a special something, if you can succeed and make a living off of 100% commission, you truly understand the art of selling, in my opinion. That's just me. I don't know. I'm not trying to be braggadocious, but I'm making that as a compliment to you, man.
Yeah, well, I think what happens is like there's different types of pressure and different amounts of it, and that's probably the most pressure packed. But like when you kind of relax into who you are and are confident that you can do what you need to do, like you get what you need to get out of it, and like it's not any harder than your other job. If you have a bad month, it hurts a little bit more. But if you have a good month, it feels even better. So
absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about sales engagement.
Yo.
First off, 3 authors: yourself, Max Altschuler, and Manny Medina, who's CEO and I think one of the founders of Outreach, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. And if you think about the book, there's a lot of sales books that are out there. So talk a little bit about what's the one thing that you want people to walk away from reading this particular book?
So I think that the world and many professions in the world in recent history have changed very dramatically. But there's one profession that basically is the same as it was when it started millennia ago, and that's sales. Sales has always been about like, listen, I got to get Mario in a face-to-face meeting. I got to get him on the telephone. I got to get him on the Zoom meeting. I got to get him on his iPhone, whatever it is, depending on when you're selling. But I got to take my like cart of dried fish over to Mario's house or whatever. Like, but I got to get in front of Mario, and then I have to connect with him, understand his needs, and then see if I can fulfill his needs with my product. It's been the same forever. Well, I think what happened in the last 5 years is sales has begun to change. And I think that the way social media, and I don't want to blame everything on social media, but like the Netflix thing where I can like get what I want when I want it with how much I want to get with it, finally leaked over into the world of sales. And there's so much communication and so much noise, and people are so much more educated that if sales was to continue to survive as a profession, it had to change. And I think that that's what sales engagement is about. It's about, in that world and in that climate, how do you still be the signal in the noise? How do you still get Mario to answer the phone and answer the email? How do you connect and engage with Mario when there's 1,000 other people that want to engage with you? And that's what I want people to take away with, is there is an answer. There is a way to do it. It is a moving target. It's not a silver bullet. But if you have the right mindset and the right way to work it out, and then the right kind of tools and platforms that you need, you can always make sure that you are hitting the mark.
Inside the book, one of the things that caught my attention was the omni-channel approach. And this is something that I've been talking about.
This is your bag.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This is something I've been talking about since day one when I came out of the gates, which, you know, there were people out there that were saying social selling is alive. The cold call is dead. Video messaging is the way to go. Personalized video messages, and you get a 59% response rate to this and that. LinkedIn emails have a 20% response rate, whereas email has a 3%. And, coming from the hat of a VP of sales, the reality is that while I believed and I saw in our business the phone call literally go from an effective tool to quite ineffective in my personal results and my organization's personal results, there were still people that were picking up the phone. But I knew that I had to do something different, and I knew that we had to incorporate what I called then an omni-channel approach. So do me a favor, talk about, you have a whole chapter on this particular section of the omni-channel approach. And I think the chapter's the future is omni-channel, and I think you say that the future is now. Talk about omni-channel. What does this mean, and how do you define the omni-channel and the importance of it?
So it's 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, Mario, and I call you. You have no idea who I am. It's an unrecognized phone number. Will you answer?
Me? No, I don't. I barely check my voicemail on a non-caller ID that I recognize. If it's a caller ID, of course, that is someone I know, I'll definitely answer it. But I rarely, if ever, answer my phone. Unless it's the telesales hotline and nobody's picked it up and it's going round robin, and then I might pick it up.
If I send you an email at Tuesday at 9 a.m. and you have no idea who I am, are you going to read it?
Yeah, there's a high probability that I might read that email, but whether it happens at 9 a.m. or it happens at 11 p.m. at night when I'm going through my email is a different story.
And will you reply if it's good?
Yes, I will. So generally speaking, last year I have two folders. One is called emails that suck and one that's called emails that don't suck. At the end of 2018, I had 100 and I think it was like 34 emails that suck, and I had 6 emails that were good. In the emails that sucked, I could probably count maybe on one hand. Even though they sucked, I replied because I had a specific need that they were addressing at that moment in time. And the ones that didn't suck, I absolutely responded to them, but let them know that either I had it, if it was something that wasn't a need, it wasn't a need at that time, and they can follow up later on.
And if I write you an in-mail message in LinkedIn that's good, will you read it and will you respond?
Same principle applies too as well on whether you hit me up on InMail or whether you hit me up on email. The reality is that I'm obviously an avid LinkedIn user. We obviously train on LinkedIn. So I definitely will read the InMail on LinkedIn, but 9 times out of 10, I don't respond to the InMails that I receive. Most of them are just diarrhea of the mouth product pitches. However, something to keep in mind is that InMail also makes it into my email box as well, because I have notifications turned on to send me that InMail. So it's kind of a 2-touch approach. So you're going to get me to read that InMail, the higher probability than you will email, simply because it's going to hit me twice. So I'm either going to get it on LinkedIn or I'm going to get it through email notification.
If somebody texts you and you don't recognize their number and it's a pitch, will you respond?
Generally not, unless this happens, which is what we do. You've come onto our site, you've requested to download something, you've provided your phone number, and that individual phone calls, no caller ID. Of course, I don't answer. They shoot a text and say, hey, Mario, I wanted to reach out to you. Probably didn't recognize my phone number. That was me calling just about a minute ago. I wanted to shoot you a text because you asked for some information. And when that happens, I'm going to respond to that text message like 99.9% of the time, even if I'm in the middle of a meeting. In fact, those of you can't see right now, I've got this little phone stand right here that says Vingresso on it. And I literally put my phone on top of here on every call that I do. And I watch all my text messages as they come through. And I do respond while I'm on conference calls. So I will respond to that if I was the initiator of that. But someone's got to touch me twice. You call me, I don't recognize the number, I don't pick up. And you text me, and then you say, you probably didn't recognize my number. And I'm like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Right? So that's how that works for text messaging.
So I could take you through a couple other examples like personalized video in an email or whatever. But like, here's me. I will 100% pick up the phone almost every single time. I will 100% read the email, but I will only respond if it's really, really good. On an InMail, I will ignore it almost all of the time. And for a text, if I get a text and I don't know you, I will text you back and it will be like, hey, listen, like, I don't know you. You shouldn't be texting me. That's not like, it's like you coming over to my house for dinner and I don't even know your name. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so we got 2 guys. Both of us have been or are VP of sales. We both do some things the same, some things different, depending on the channel. And I'd argue if I did something on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or afternoon or evening, like you'd have a different response to it. So if this is 2 guys that are that different, but have similar backgrounds, we both love sales, we both love salespeople, we probably both respond to sales messaging more than most other people because we feel some sort of obligation. Yeah.
Yeah, so absolutely.
If we're that different, like imagine if I have 1,000 of us in a room. So omni-channel is just, if you don't think that you have to do things in different ways, then that means you are going to give up a stream of potential pipeline that you could be taking advantage of. So why would you not do it? Like, what's the harm in doing it? I just took a cold call the other day from a girl that was awesome. I mean, it was so good. I offered her a job on the spot and sent her over to our SDR director to get an interview. It was like, she just murdered the cold call. It was awesome. Nice. But she's been sending me emails for 2 weeks that I kind of been putting off. Mm-hmm. You know, we both have a million examples. So omni-channel is now, there's a lot of noise. You have to find the signal. One part of finding the signal is finding the channel in which somebody wants to engage with you. Right. And so you've got to try a few to get there.
And you know, it's funny you mentioned that because I think that even though technology has been introduced into the sales process, theoretically, it should make it easier for us to do our jobs. And I could probably argue that it has. My personal perspective, our jobs as salespeople, sales leaders has become harder. And here's why. Harder because just like you just illustrated, Mark, you and I are both buyers. But the channel of which you prefer is different than the channel of which I prefer. And as a seller, you're selling to multiple buyers. And you need to understand that Mark may read 100% of his emails. Mario does not, but I do read all my LinkedIn messages. So you need to understand which channel is the one that will actually solicit a response. And we just recently hosted a webinar called Entering the Mind of the Marketing Executive Buyer. And we had 3 CMOs from 3 very well-known companies that were teaching sales leaders what they needed to do. And one of the things they said was, flat out, all 3 of them, don't call me, I'm not picking up. That's what they said.
Yeah.
Not saying the cold calls. Yeah, they said, don't call me, I'm not picking up. But do engage with me on multiple channels. You need to email me. You need to socially engage with me. You need to identify that you understand who I am and you know who I am by personalizing that content. And that was consistent, that reps should be using an omni-channel approach to be able to engage them, because they said, one of them was like, I'm an email reader. The other one said, I have my admin read my email. And the other one said, I'm on LinkedIn. That's what you're going to find me, right? But you got to use all the channels. And I think that one of the challenges that we see, and I'd love to get your thought on this, bro, is everybody who's the VP of sales at 40 years of age and older, 40 years of age and older, majority of those VPs of sales have never sold using an omni-channel approach. And therefore, sales leaders have run scared about using tools like video and LinkedIn, or they've said, let's just buy the tool, and they roll out a tool, and it's like putting a rep on the phone and saying, go cold call, when they have no training on how to do cold calling. What do you think about that?
That's a big question, right? So first of all, I agree. I was a VP of sales and I used to sell into education. And when I sold into education, they don't participate in LinkedIn. Like, they're not on LinkedIn. So that's not a social channel that I can use. But here's the thing is, I think most sales leaders have an opinion about what works. And the difference between a good sales leader and a bad sales leader is a bad sales leader thinks his opinion is right, and he will force his entire sales org to work the way that he thinks he's worked. And he probably has no mechanism of feedback to understand that that really works or not. So all he's going to do is drive people harder in the thing he believes in, if it's not working. A good sales leader understands his opinion is indeed an opinion and is open to understanding and hearing other things. And that's when, when my sellers are like, hey, listen, I need to do LinkedIn stuff. I'm like, all right, well, let's try it. But it's a lot of work for a sales leader to understand something, like for an entire organization, of whether it's going to work or not, to track the data, to really understand it. And let's face it, like, most of us sales guys aren't scientists. And to really do things correctly, you have to set up kind of an experiment. You have to be a semi-scientist. You have to track the data. You have to interpret what it means. You have to make sure people aren't being biased in what they're doing. So they're putting their best leads and what they think is going to work best. So of course it works best, even though it doesn't really. And so you have to really create like a culture where people are open to give you ideas. You're open to listen to them. And then you're willing to test them and then monitor the testing. And then everybody agreeing on what's going to work best in doing that. Outreach, that's a tool that like inherently allows you to do that. So I get to experience that every day. But I do think people are hesitant to allow their sales orgs to try new stuff, because why would I have them try new stuff when I believe the phone call is the only way to make money? If you're not getting results on the phone, it's because you suck on the phone, or you're not making enough phone calls on the phone, or whatever. And they try to offload the blame rather than saying, listen, like, maybe my idea that a phone call isn't necessarily what I need to be doing anymore.
So why do you think leaders, and still to this day, I can go to any major Fortune 2000 company, and sales organizations have blitz days? Now, blitz days, generally when we refer to blitz days, they're cold calling days, right? As opposed to, why don't we just call it a freaking prospecting day? Because I don't care about, me personally, I don't care which medium you use. I don't care about the productivity-based metric. What I care about is the outcome, right?
Yeah.
Did you have a conversation? Did you create more conversations? And if you're doing it through text messaging, hallelujah. If you're doing it through video messaging, great. If you're doing it through LinkedIn, phenomenal. If you're doing it through email, awesome. If you're doing it through phone calling, great. If you're doing a combination of all of those things as part of a cadence program, more power to you. The question is did you create more conversations? Why do we still have blitz days?
It's super simple, man. The reason you have a blitz day is because you have a whole sales force that isn't disciplined. And what I mean by that is, if you don't prospect for 3 weeks of the month, guess what you're going to have on the 4th week of the month? You're going to have a blitz day because you have no freaking pipeline the next month. And so that's why we have blitz days. And like, listen, like, I think the reason that there's phone calls is because most people believe if you get somebody on the phone, you have a chance to do something. Whereas everything else, like if I send them an email or send them a text, like I don't necessarily have a conversation where I can overcome their objections right now. So it's just easy and it's what people know. But like, so complete this sentence, Mario. If we do more activity, we'll get more what?
More conversations, more opportunity.
more results or whatever, right? And that's what people think. They think more equals more. And that's not true today. More doesn't equal more. More might in some ways equal less.
Exactly.
You send out more emails, guess what? You get blacklisted. You send out more LinkedIn stuff, guess what? Your LinkedIn stuff gets shut down.
Yep.
Right. So it's not about more. What it's about now is, and this is kind of the point of the book, it's really about engagement. It's like figuring out how to engage with your prospects. So like, listen, I don't need my reps out here to do a blitz day because they're doing the activity every day that it takes to win. And then what we're trying to do is to figure out how do we actually have them do less activity and get even more results out of that. Not how do they, that's the old way. I remember I used to do that in my first sales job. We do blitz days all the time. Really, it was because I knew they weren't prospecting any day except for the blitz day.
Yeah. 100% agree with you. But you bring up something that's very interesting is more does not equal more, right? But being laser targeted and laser focused through what I talk about is personalization can produce better results. And I know you guys talk about this inside of sales engagement in the book about personalization. Do me a favor, talk a little bit about personalization, outreach, what works, what doesn't work, some of the techniques that your sellers may use, and the time investment that we as sales leaders should expect our salespeople to take to personalize messaging.
Well, I think that you need to have 2 or 3 batches of prospects. And so I think you do need to have a batch of prospects that you don't know anything about. They may or may not be educated, but somewhere in there, there's some low-hanging fruit. And you need to do probably a very non-personalized, doesn't take a lot of time type of messaging to that batch of prospects to get those people that you just don't have the time to get to otherwise, but there is low-hanging fruit in there. You just need to make sure you're doing it in a really good way that's not like burning the bridges as you go across it, right? Then the other bucket that you need to have is these are the people that through firmographic data, through technographic data, through different buying signals or whatever, we can kind of talk about that kind of stuff. But through those type of means, you know, like these are the hot ones. These are at the companies that we have to have as customers. They're actually already a customer. They just haven't started paying us yet because they're using a competitor, right? Or they're like, they so need what you have, right? Those ones you can't waste. And if you approach them in the first bucket that I described way, you'll waste them because they're not low-hanging fruit. They're higher up in the tree, and you got to climb a little higher up there to get it, which means you have to exert a little more effort. So our sales reps using outreach, we have a couple different kinds of sequences. And again, a sequence is like this process, this series of touch points over time that I'm going to use to get somebody on the phone if we're talking about prospecting. It's how we get somebody to engage. And so what we do is we have 2 sets of kinds of sequences. We have ones that are very personalized, very manual. They include a lot of phone calls, manual emails with prompts on what to personalize inside the email, LinkedIn touches, omni-channel. And then we have that other kind of sequence, which is just maybe a couple personalized touches over 20 or 30 touches over a couple months, but mostly it's like automated emails that the reps aren't doing a lot with. And so like that's how I would structure it overall. But like that personalized bucket, it just needs to be manual emails, LinkedIn steps, and phone calls. Those are the 3 main channels that we use that are really targeted towards those buying signals. But, you know, listen, here's what people always say about what you and I are talking about right now. Well, Mario, I understand you want me to be personalized and more targeted. But, dude, if I knew the people that were going to schedule a meeting with me, I would just reach out to them and they would have a meeting with me. So, like, I get what you're saying, but it doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? Because they're like, who do I know who to be personalized or targeted to? And that's where they get tripped up. It's because they don't want to spend time on somebody that's not going to respond when they're usually a volume play person and they're just like casting a wide net hoping they catch a few fish.
Yeah.
So that's the problem is people don't think that they can identify. Here's my 200 people I absolutely have to get in touch with.
I like what you said, and it's definitely 100% in line with what we focus on. And that is every sales rep should have, and you decide what the number is based upon your market, whether you're nationals, whether you're majors, whether you're commercial, mid-market, small biz, you should have a top 10, a top 20, 30, 40, 50, and that should be a focused plan of attack month over month, and you're working your plan, right? And my general rule of thumb that I'll tell a salesperson, especially if they're a mid-market commercial sales rep, where they've got at least 100 accounts that they can call on, have a top 15, top 20 at most on a monthly basis, and that changes month over month, right? And it's based upon, as you assess the need, those are the accounts that you're going to go do some hyper personalization to. The other ones, I think what you're saying as well is if you've got, another 150, 200 accounts that may be in your swath of potential accounts, now you might start using some of the more automation type of approaches, of which seemingly seem personalized, but you may not be able to hyper personalize to each one of those potential buyers or the buying influence group for that particular account. Is that what I hear you saying?
That's exactly right. And here's the thing is again, this idea of hot. People get tripped up here because they're like, well, I don't understand what a good account is. I don't understand how I should know who to go after or whatever. And this is what I always tell my reps is go make them hot. You know what I'm saying? If I'm trying to sell you outreach, Mario, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to assume the first time I'm going to get you on the phone or our first interaction is going to be when I'm going to book the meeting and you're going to see the value of outreach. That's naive. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start sending you little things in the mail. I'm going to start liking your content on LinkedIn. I'm going to start commenting on your posts on LinkedIn. I'm going to start tagging you in a post or something on LinkedIn that I think that looks good. I'm going to start leaving you voicemails where there's maybe no ask. It's just, hey, did you get the article I sent you last week? I'm going to download a white paper that I think you'd be interested in. I'm going to highlight it up and put notes in the margins. And then I'm going to send it to you being like, hey, man, I thought you might find this interesting. I marked it up for you. See, I'm making you hot. I'm making you notice me. And I'm making you see that I know what's up with you and what's up with your company and what's up with your challenge. And maybe I'm starting to connect it to what it is. But a lot of us wait around for marketing to do that. Listen, if you wait around, I met with this one seller. I was like, listen, do you want to control your own destiny or do you want to sit around bitching about marketing all day? I don't want to talk and complain about marketing. If I want an account, we know what to do to go get an account. Just man up and go do it, or woman up or cowboy up or whatever the gender neutral thing is for that. Go do that. Hero up. That's what I'm going to call it. Hero up.
There you go. Absolutely right. Love the insight you're sharing there. Now, when it comes to personalization, we have what we call our Pvc methodology, right? So when you're creating outreach to somebody, whether it's through a LinkedIn message, whether it's through a connection message, whether it's an email, you're going to use what we call the Pvc method. And that's P for personalize, V for give value, and C for call to action. That's what we teach inside of our sales training programs. So thinking of personalization, there's some common do's and don'ts that you guys come up with on personalization. What are some of the common don'ts? Don't do this in personalization. What would you say that would look like?
Don't talk to me about the Penn State Nittany Lion football game on Saturday. Don't personalize to me about something that you can just lift off my LinkedIn profile because it's just information there that makes you want to say something that we connect in some way. That's not the kind of stuff that I care about. The way you personalize is you understand what my responsibility is. You understand what my challenges are, or at least have a hypothesis. And then you personalize trying to figure out, are you correct or not? Hey, Mario, I know that you run an entire consulting group in a company around social selling and helping get in front of people. A lot of people that we talk to like that have a real problem with delivering their talks in front of people in a visually dramatic way because they're great talkers, but they're not great designers. Have you ever had a problem where you've had a slide that is in your mind that really talks about an idea, but you could never get your designer to really nail it? Yeah, well, dude, why don't you hire a design firm and give us a chance? You know what I'm saying? That's a personalized email, not, hey, Mario, saw you went to the University of North Dakota. Go Cougs. Hope that you guys do well in the NCAA tournament. Oh, yeah, by the way, here's my crappy product pitch. You want to book a meeting? See what I'm saying? That's two totally different things. Personalize around the pain, the problem, and the value, not around some personal thing. Because, I'm not going to buy from you because you're some person that knows I went to Penn State, which is just on my LinkedIn profile. Everybody knows that.
Yeah. From my perspective, one of the things that we do see is reps taking data and pieces of information and saying, hey, I saw that you went to University of California, Berkeley. In my case, I went to UC Berkeley. I'm okay with that. But I want you to take it a step further. don't just say, I saw you went there. There's got to be relevance to what you're pulling off. So if you use UC Berkeley as an example, what's the relevance? For example, you might say, I was actually there at the same time you were, right? That's the correlation, causation effect, right? The relevance behind that is like, oh, okay, so I got a fellow alumni because, alums usually try to stick together. That would be the normal thing. But if you went to, in your case, as you mentioned, the University of North Dakota, you wouldn't be like, hey, go Bears. Go Bears and what? Like, give me something more. By the way, the Bears are University of California, Berkeley, right? So you got to have the relevance if you're going to pull something like that. One thing that I do like, and it's something that we train on inside of in this case, we have our digital selling training program, and this one is under our Selling with LinkedIn course, is if someone speaks a foreign language, for example, you may speak French or Spanish or whatever it might be, and you've got nothing. There's nothing there from a social perspective that you can use. No company news, no company announcements, nothing really going on, no activity taking place. One thing that I do like to use that's worked quite effectively is, and I'll give you my secret tip here, guys, listening in, is on that subject line that I might put. If someone speaks an alternative language, I'm going to Google Translate, and I'm going to put my subject line in the language that they say that they speak. And that has all the time worked. People are like, oh, like he knows I speak Spanish. Oh, that's pretty cool. So it's actually intriguing. And then, of course, you acknowledge that inside there, and you might say something like, I hope it's right because I use Google Translate to do that, right? So you make it a little bit funny, and it shows that personalization, but you got to convert it very quickly into relevance. And that's that personalization that you're talking about, Mark, and that is leading back to the business problems that you're trying to solve. And that's where a lot of reps make that mistake at.
I would even take it one step further, is like outreach solves a ton of problems. And if I give you a bulleted list of 6 of them, I have not personalized. My job is to figure out what of these 6 problems do I think Mario has the biggest chance with? Because guess what? In that first email, if you don't appreciate that first problem, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to hit you with another email with a second problem. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm not trying to do one email that gets everything done in one time. Like, that doesn't work anymore. Every time you add another line to your email is another reason that they have to scroll on their phone. And every time they flick their thumb on their phone, that's a minute, a half a second closer that they're tired of flicking, and they're now going to hit the archive button, and then you're over. You have to view it like that. Every flick, if they do more than 2 flicks, you can guess they're flicking your email over to the archive and not responding.
Yeah,
so
yeah, I'm with you. Dude, talk a little bit about something in the book, which is seller content that's destined to lose. Talk a little bit about that. What does that mean? Is that seller created content?
I think all content is destined to lose. Like, what works today doesn't work tomorrow. You can't keep the same messaging for 3 years in a row and it's always going to work. So I think what that's speaking to is the fact that whatever your content is right now will not be the content that'll work for you in 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 days. And you have to have a culture of experimentation and measurement. Like, you have to be looking at your reply rates or your open rates and seeing are we having a dip, and do we need to change what we're doing and move on to the next new thing? So everything that you do right now is destined to fail, right? At some point, it's going to stop working. And the problem is most of us realize too late how poorly what used to work isn't working anymore. We make the transition way too late, and it affects our pipeline and affects our livelihoods and all that kind of stuff. But if we can notice earlier and be willing to change and open to seeing that we need to change, then what will happen is you won't have, you're always going to have ups and downs in sales, but you don't necessarily have to have peaks and valleys.
And so when we talk about the content for a seller, should sellers be creating their own content, you think?
I fundamentally, because I'm a seller, believe salespeople should come up with their own content. But here's the thing, though, Mario. I don't know. What I do know is if I put 2 emails in outreach or sales engagement platform, and I A/B test the one that marketing wrote and the one that sales wrote, guess which one I care about is the winner?
The one that produces the best results.
That's all I care about. Yeah. I will let marketing write every one of my emails if they get better results.
Yeah.
So that's the problem is the answer is, I don't know. And the reason is because I don't care who writes it. I care about which one produces better. So you have to monitor that, not who's writing it.
So going back to the conversation that we just had a second ago, which was, let's not talk about the medium, let's talk about the outcome. What is the end outcome and what does it produce? And let that be the winning, the deciding factor of what wins, right?
That's right, yeah.
Oh, man. Some good stuff here in terms of what we're talking about. Talk about video. Do you guys use video inside of your outreach process? Not to be confused with the company name Outreach.
Yeah, that might have been purposeful.
Yeah, exactly.
Me personally, I don't like video. I just got a video today. I feel when I get a video, this is just me personally speaking. I feel like when I get a video, the reason they're doing the video is to get me to do a meeting. And that feels manipulative, right? I don't watch them. I don't look at them. I don't even open them if it's a video. But we have a lot of data that suggests that people do like video. And so, listen, what about video? Listen, I don't know, man. I don't know about video. What I do know is you better test and figure out if video works for you. And if it works, use it. If it doesn't, don't. I just know for me personally, to get a cold email with a video in it from somebody holding up a whiteboard with my name on it does nothing for me. Yeah. I don't care about that. I would rather you write a 4-line email that says, Mark, I know you're the VP sales at Outreach. Most VPs struggle with the ramp time. I'd love to talk to you about like how X, Y, and Z company helps you reduce your ramp 20% like we just did for whatever. Like you want to talk soon. Yes. That's what I want.
Yeah.
And again, that's just me. It doesn't matter what I want. What matters is what our prospective customers want and what they'll respond to. So that's why it's so dangerous as a sales leader to have an opinion.
Well, I think it goes back though, bro, to what we talked about earlier, which is this omni-channel approach, because someone may write that email that you just described. And it's funny because what you just quoted off is exactly what we use inside of our training program as well. Almost the exact structure when you're personalizing to a buyer persona, right? You understand the business problems, talk to that, talk about the other clients, and then drive it to a call to action. And that call to action might not be, let's have a meeting. It might be a validation. Like, is this a problem that you're having? So that you can create engagement. Because if that's not a problem that they're having, then there's not a need and you can move on and come back to this person later on, right? So let's not waste anybody's time. But someone may not respond to the email, but if you include this omni-channel approach that we talked about earlier, which is you might follow up with another one that includes a video, that video might capture their attention. And guess what you can do on that video? You can say the exact same thing that you wrote. And guess what? Someone's seeing your facial expressions. They're hearing voice modulation. They're building trust by seeing your face because that's the scientific proof and the science behind the use of video. And that might get somebody. Then again, you might start out with video. It doesn't work, but you might send that same message through email via text, and that might get somebody, right? So that's the importance of the omni-channel approach. I think that what we're talking about. Would you agree?
I 100% agree. And even more than omni-channel, what it speaks to is experimentation. It's not okay to have a strong opinion about something. And like I say that with a little tongue in cheek, like, oh my gosh, at Outreach, you have to make 130,000 dials a day. And if you make you'll make your number, blah, 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 right? And I have this like super strong opinion, but you do need to have a hypothesis. And a hypothesis is this is what I believe to be true, but I want to test it to make sure of that. And so like, does a video and email work better first as a first touch or as a second touch? I don't know, can't answer it. Anybody that tries to answer it, anybody that looks back at millions of old emails and tries to answer it that aren't from your company with your message is crazy and stupid and going to lead you in the wrong direction. What you need to do is you need to say, listen, we're going to buy something or have a tool or a platform that allows us to test hypothesis 1, which is send the video email first and see if that works. If it doesn't work, we're going to move the video to email 2 and see if that works. If that doesn't work, then we're probably going to drop email out or we're going to keep testing. You got to test, you got to collect the data, and you got to find out what works. Otherwise, it's just your gut, and your gut's not going to be right.
Yeah, I'm with you. Great conversation here, man. Where can people go to get sales engagement? Amazon, I take it, yeah?
It's on Amazon, baby. It was number 4 in the business category in the new release just last week, so it's rocking hard.
Nice. We will make sure we put that into the show notes for all of you listening in that actually want to purchase the book. I highly recommend it. Your guys' philosophies are very well aligned with Vengresso as a digital sales training and consulting organization. And Mark, I always ask this question of my guests as we start to round out the end of this podcast, and that is, how can people get a hold of you? Should it be through LinkedIn? Are you on Twitter? How should people get a hold of you?
I hate Twitter. I hate that I have to watch Twitter feed crap on SportsCenter and on games. I don't care what Joe Schmo in Chicago says about the game. I want to know what the experts say. That's just me. No, I'm on LinkedIn, man. That's the best way to get a hold of me.
If you want to connect with Mark, it's Kosoglow. We'll have his LinkedIn profile in the show notes as well. But make sure when you reach out to him, please send him a personalized connection request and tell him you heard him on Selling with Social. Do not just hit the connect and send button. Personalize that message. Mark, one last question for you. Your all-time favorite movie, what is it?
Impossible question, but I will tell you my most favorite movie in the last year, which is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Baller.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. You got it. So that we haven't had that one on the show yet. That's fantastic. Man, it's been great having you on the show. Congratulations on publishing the book, and congratulations on the recent Series E funding to Outreach. You guys are doing some great things. And I think that officially, does it make you a unicorn?
$1.1 billion valuation. That's unicorn status. Yeah.
You made it into the unicorn status. How does it feel? Did your day change when that happened?
My LinkedIn traffic changed, I'll tell you that. And the number of recruiters trying to get me to use them to hire salespeople changed.
All of a sudden you got moolah. So now it's time to reach out to you. So all of you all listening in, that's Mark Kosoglow from Outreach, Vice President of Sales, the first employee and 100% commission sales rep who's now leading the sales organization over at Outreach. Mark, thanks so much for joining me on Selling with Social.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Selling with Social Sales Podcast. Did you enjoy that show? If so, would you do me a huge favor and give the Selling with Social Podcast a rating and review on iTunes? That would be super awesome. Also, if you want to easily find our show, just go to Vengresso.com. That's VENGRESO.com and click on podcast. From there, you'll find the Selling with Social podcast. Thanks for listening in. And until the next show, be awesome. Mario Martinez Jr.